you can't use it, if you can't get value from the thing that you created, why would anyone else? Your first user isn't someone that tries your app and then leaves and never comes back. You can see here, we're really digging into the things that define success and failure, okay? So you're an indie developer and you have a sweet idea for an application. There's only one problem. You don't know where to start. You came to the right place. Today, I'm going to talk about what to do after you have an idea. After watching this short 10-minute video, you'll have a better idea of how to take your idea and turn it into a real product. Today we're going to talk about the Solopreneur product proposal. I myself am an indie developer and solopreneur working to build up my portfolio of small bets of applications. This is a document that I've created over time as I've built out app after app after app. The important part about the Solopreneur product proposal is that you are filtering out ideas. Here's the harsh truth. Every idea does not deserve to be created. You shouldn't create every idea that you have. In fact, there's just not enough time. So today I'm going to break down the Solopreneur product proposal that I use to develop all of my projects. I'm going to share it with you to help you on your journey to take your application from idea to reality. All right, so let's jump in. So what is let me start my timer here. So what is the Solopreneur product proposal? You have to determine if the thing that you're thinking, the idea that you have in your head, is actually worth the time to build. The Solopreneur product proposal helps you do that, right? So it helps you think through, the important details in a quick way, so that you can filter out what you should and what you shouldn't spend the time to build, right? Because when we're talking about software, we're talking about weeks, months, and years possibly of your time being poured into an application. And it can really help to just plan out a couple things to fill out this proposal and just see, okay, now that I have everything out on the screen, on paper, so to speak, should I continue with this plan, or are there some obvious things that I haven't really thought through, right? So let's jump in. So we're going to cover 5 key things. What and who. We're going to cover when. We're going to cover how, and then we're going to reality check ourselves. All right. And then at the very end, we're going to jump into things you can do right now to get started and to stop waiting, to stop, delaying, right? Because that's another kind of aspect of building your own product, right? Because you can always wait. You can always wait another day, right? You're working too much, or you don't know what you should start with, blah, blah, blah. First things first, what and who. There are 3 key things that we need to talk about here. What are your pillars? And we'll get into what exactly that means in a second. What's your product? And who's your first user? These 3 are extremely important. That's why they're at the top. Definitely, when you're filling this out, go ahead and copy this template and fill it out for your own product. Fill this out top to bottom. It's really important to go in order. So what are pillars? So pillars define the reason you specifically are building this application. You can build something for a number of reasons, right? You can learn, you can try to create a revenue source for yourself. You can try to, develop a certain skill, right? You can work on your animation abilities, your design skills, whatever it might be, right? You need to define this before you even start building, before you do anything else. Figure out why you're doing this. Figure it out for you, because when things get hard and you're coming up against serious conflict, your pillars are going to guide you in the right direction. What's next? Your product. So I'm not going to jump into every section. You guys can copy this and go into more detail yourself. Everything's all laid out here. First link in the description. Check it out and dig in a little more. I am limited on time. I want to cover the high level sections for you guys so that everything makes sense. So your product is the thing that solves a problem by providing value for a specific person. So when you're defining your product, you're going to talk about the problem that you're solving just in one sentence. You're going to describe your product, again, one sentence, one image. This is not a big breakdown of this massive great idea. This is high level. We're touching on important concepts in a short, concise way, right? What's the value that you're providing? Like, what is a concrete value? Are you providing, are you giving people their time back? Is this an educational thing? Is this entertainment? right? And then how does your product make money, right? So dig into those sections some more. First user. This is really important. A lot of solopreneurs, pretty much anyone starting out, makes this mistake. I know I made this mistake a lot and I don't anymore, partially thanks to this document because it forces me to think about it. Define your first user. Your first user isn't someone that tries your app and then leaves and never comes back. Your first user is someone who comes back day after day that consistently gets value from using your application, all right? So it's important to define what they're like, define where they hang out digitally and physically. What language do they use? What are the keywords that they use, right? What are the types of questions that your first user asks? What are the tools and apps that your first user uses, right? This is all really important because it determines what marketing channels you'll use to communicate with them, right? So that's what and who. After you finish that, we can talk about when. There are 3 things you need to kind of schedule and attempt to predict and plan. Your personal viable product, minimum viable product, and your minimum lovable product. I want you to come to this document and look at what each of those mean here. I want to skip over this section. You're going to start with your personally viable product. This is the version of the product that you can use and you can get value from. It all starts there. If you can't use it, if you can't get value from the thing that you created, why would anyone else? All right, so that's the when and the how. So notice how we haven't talked about technology yet. Honestly, it's kind of an afterthought. It's important to talk about your priorities. So why did you pick this technology? And then it is also important to detail what technology you picked. I'll let you guys dig into that some more here. Then comes distribution. So distribution is really, really important. Again, this is a classic, first time, second time, third time, indie developer, founder mistake. We skip over this entire idea of how our app and product will get in front of the eyes of people to even know that it exists, right? You can have the greatest app in the world that solves everyone's problems, right? But if no one knows you exist, it's almost like your app does not exist either. So marketing channels, thinking about how the user progresses through your marketing channels into, from and around your application ecosystem, and thinking about feedback loops of how you collect data from your users. And by data, I mean how you know that your user is getting value out of your application. Distribution is all about these things. Dig into this some more. There are lots of really important questions to answer here. For instance, marketing channels, right? So how are you going to share your app, right? On what platform, right? There are search engines, ads, blogging, social media, right? There are tons and tons of ways, in-person meetups, tons of ways to communicate to the world that your product does this thing and solves that problem, right? User journey, right? So user journey is really important. Basically, your user journey is going to describe how user enters your ecosystem and how they navigate through the world that you have created. And this world is, from the beginning when they see your, ad or they see your blog, all the way to when they're using your application, right? So the full journey. Your feedback loop is essentially your analytics, right? How are you learning that your users are using your app correctly, and how are your users telling you how they want to use your application, right? How do you know that you're building the right thing? This is your feedback loop, okay? And next section, the reality check. The most important thing in the reality check is you have to define the most important thing that needs to be true for your product to be successful. This is called the critical hypothesis. If this question is false, your product will not succeed. So you can see here, we're really digging into the things that define success and failure, okay? The reality check also is gonna dig in further and ask you several questions about why your product might work and why your product might fail, right? So the reality check is really important after you've defined your what, who, when, and how. Reality check is gonna make sure that you really think about the outcomes that can happen, okay? So that's it, guys. 10 minutes is up. I want you guys to grab this document, read through all of these things. Go ahead and stop my timer. I want you guys to grab this doc, fill it out for your next app idea, and then check out the Get Started Now, where I give you 3 concrete actions that you can take to start building your application right now. So I really appreciate your time. I hope that this document helps you. If you think that something should be tweaked, or if you are already a builder and you've built your own application, definitely drop a comment. I'd love to hear your feedback. This is a document that can be updated over time. So if there are improvements that need to be made, certainly we can make them. And as I continue to build on my solopreneur journey, I'll be updating this to ask better questions and to think through applications in a more thorough way. So I hope that the Solopreneur product proposal helps you get started on your application right now, today. If this video was helpful for you, definitely like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one.